Good morning, everyone. Welcome in to the Stingray Show. And this, of course, is the pre show where Heath and I talk a little bit of everything. And first off, Heath, how are you doing on this Wednesday morning? Can't hear you, bud.
Good morning. What's so good about it, right? No, I'm joking. That line's from Gremlins for you 80s fans out there.
Yeah.
But no, man, it's hump day. So hopefully we'll get over the hump and don't have a choice, right? We will get over the hump. Steven,
Heath,
at the end of the show, I want to talk bowl games. How many teams, and who are they going to be from the SEC? How many
okay.
teams are going to get in? Who's going to be left out? There's several teams flirting with that 6 win down
Yeah.
there. We'll talk about that after the show, but feel free to comment after the show of who you think is going to make a bowl game in the SEC or how many teams we'll have.
Heath, I hate to start the show so negative,
Uh-oh, here we go.
but did you hear the news out of Starkville this past week?
I don't know. What are you referring to?
Steve Robertson.
Oh, yes, I did hear this news. It is insane.
Someone went to his home in the middle of the night and set his car on fire. Now, guys, you can dislike people for whatever reason, but when you resort to doing that, that is just every bit of wrong. I mean, I don't understand why people would stoop that low to do that to someone.
Well, a couple of things. Steve's been on our show many times,
Yes.
and we've always enjoyed Steve, and we text Steve and message Steve and about fun things and everything. But one time here recently, we were doing a show with Steve at night, and his dog started barking.
Yep.
And he said, "My wife's coming home from the spa. They have a spa that they run, True Floats.
Hmm.
If you've never done it, it's awesome, by the way. But he said it's going to take a while until she gets up here." And so we just waited, patiently. I thought the wait would be like 10, 15 seconds. It was like 90 seconds.
Right.
They have a very long driveway. They have
Ye-
lots of dogs.
yes.
And so for someone, I don't know where Steve lives, but I know he lives way off the road.
Yep.
It has a gravel driveway. And so for someone to come to his house and walk down that extremely long driveway and do that, you got issues, brother. I don't know who you are,
Yep.
but please go see somebody. And I'll tell you this, if you think you're going to scare Steve Robertson, you've got another thing coming. You ain't ever going to scare Steve Robertson. And I'll tell you this about Steve Robertson. There's a reason why you did it in the middle of the night hiding, because
Yep.
you're a coward and won't face him face to face. And there's
Yes.
probably a reason why, because he will squash you into the ground.
Yep.
I don't know how many people have met Steve. Steve is built like a linebacker. Steve's a
Yeah.
big dude.
Yep.
Don't let the dreads and the funny hat and the polka dot shirts fool you. All right. He's a rock and roller. Yeah. He's got tattoos. Yeah. But Steve's built like a linebacker, played football, and there's a reason you came in the middle of the night. I don't know who you are, but I hope justice gets served on this one.
And you're a coward. You
You're
are
big
a
time coward.
yep.
Huge coward. Huge coward. Yeah. I saw the post this morning and I was a little shocked when I started reading it, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!" I don't know if anyone listens to Steve's podcast, The Boneyard. Great podcast. It's part of my weekly daily regiment. It's a 3-day a week show, and I kind of noticed Monday it was a little bit off, and I was like, Steve haven't posted it, but I remember him saying he was going to the game in Arkansas. He's going to go see his grandchild. He's going to do this and that. So yeah, to hear all this, I was like, man, Steve's been out of town. He comes back in town, and now someone's trying to burn his car down outside his house. So yeah, hey, just do the right thing. Get right. and move on with your life, you coward. I mean, you are a coward. There's a chance for you, but just stop. You're not going to intimidate anybody. You just show how much of a coward you really are, and I would hide my face too.
And Heath, I just want to let Steve know that we are thinking about him and his family during this difficult time of someone purposely setting his vehicle on fire.
Yeah, it's Steve made a joke in the post that he that car didn't work, but for someone to walk down Steve Robertson's driveway and set his car on fire,
My gosh.
I mean, what kind of idiot are you?
What is wrong with people these days, man? What is wrong with people?
I don't know, man. I don't listen. We're not going to dive into this. We made a joke in the very first episode that we're not going to talk politics or COVID. No one's talking about COVID anymore. but, but if there's a politician or a party you don't like, or if there's a speaker you don't like, okay, you have the right to not to like them. Everyone's fine with that. But when you just take all these crazy actions with people that you don't agree with or people that you don't like, and it's physical violence, like you're the issue. You're the problem. You are what's making America terrible. Make America a better place. Make the
All
world a
right,
better place.
Heath, let's go ahead. I did not mean to interrupt you, but let's go on ahead and talk about something positive and fun. It is Wednesday, November the 5th, and
Hump day.
yesterday, it was National Candy Day.
Mm,
Today, it is National Donut Day. So instead of us doing our fave five, let's just go on ahead and tell everyone our top favorite donuts that we like. And then you guys in the comments as well, feel free to let us know your favorite donuts as well. I will go first, and I'm going to tell you right now there is no better donut than a cruller.
Okay. All right. You like the Krugers. I like it.
I do.
I, I look, I'm not a boring guy. I like adventure. I'm not a bland. I don't have a bland taste palette, but if it's a warm, hot glazed donut, just a regular glazed donut, there's nothing better in the world. But if you want me to choose something a little bit fancier,
Yeah.
I'd like to get an apple fritter or an apple filled donut and a cherry filled donut together.
Hmm.
If they're warm, if they're not warm, I don't want it. Don't care. But if it's warm, I gotta have it. Love that
Yeah.
stuff, man. It's been a while since I had a donut, man. And Steven, on a personal note, I'm on day 4 without having a Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper's my coffee, man. I have one or two in the morning when I wake up. I have one at lunch. I usually have one at night. Yes, I'm drinking 3 or 4 Dr. Peppers a day. I have not had one, and this is day 4 now. So I've gone 3 complete days without having a Dr. Pepper. It's about to kill me. I'm having withdrawals over here.
I can tell you're kind of a little dragon today.
Man, I'm telling you, man, I'm turning in a nice round number here in about a month. And I saw some pictures of myself this weekend with my kids, and I was like, I've got to do something. This is
Right.
miserable. So
Yes.
yeah, it's like we just got to start. We got to start now. So saw those pictures on Saturday. Sunday, I was like, we got to stop with the Dr. Pepper. So that's going to be the first step. I've been doing some exercise and things like that. Just trying to make consistency out of it.
Are you ready to start the show, man? I
Brother,
think
I'm always ready to start the show. I'd rather
dude,
talk about SEC sports than us, brother.
hey,
But hey,
we've gone 9 minutes, so I think that's enough of the pre-show. So let's get going.
yeah, and hey, for the post show, and you can go on and put it in the comments. How many SEC teams do you think are going to get into a bowl? Who's in? Who's out? Let us know in the comments.
Okay. All right. So we are going to run a few of our ads to pay the bills briefly, and then we will be right back to start the Kentucky and Florida preview show right here on the Stingray Show.
You just
I am representing a clothing company right here in Tuscaloosa that is called J&J Apparel. If you like the Mississippi State shirt that I have on, you can find all of their Mississippi State apparel as well as Auburn, Alabama, and Ole Miss at jnjapparel.com. They are located right here in Tuscaloosa, but they also have other merchandise for other SEC schools as well. So once again, if you do like this polo that I've got on and the Walking Bulldog, go to jnjapparel.com and get all of your SEC merch right there for Ole Miss, Alabama, Auburn, and Mississippi State with J&J Apparel. This is the Stingray Show, and coming up on this edition, we are going to be previewing a game that could potentially be a squeaky good game this weekend. It is the Florida Gators coming off of a heartbreaking loss to the Georgia Bulldogs, their rivals, now going on the road to Kentucky to take on a Mark Stoops football team that got Hugh Freeze fired at Auburn. And like I said on Monday, this could be a program-defining win for them as they're trying to turn it around in Lexington. We are about to be joined by Graham Hall of 247 Sports The Gators, and then later on, Nick Rousch for Kentucky Sports Radio will join us on the Florida at Kentucky preview show right here on this edition.
Hi, this is Tim Brando with a reminder. Look out, you're about to feel the buzz of Stingray.
This is Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
I'm Heath Hopkins. I'm here in DeSoto County, Mississippi, right outside of Memphis, Tennessee.
You know, Mark, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you feel that responsibility to pay it forward and give some kid a chance coming up in the ranks, kind of like Tony did for you?
Why do you think I'm talking to Stingray tonight?
Thank you, man. I appreciate
that. No, I mean, look, no.
Hey, Stingray, Here's the deal. When you get involved with Texas, it's like getting married to a stripper. and let me explain this. It looks good. It's kind of sexy on the surface. Yeah. But then you get the baggage, you get the drama, you get all that eventually comes with it. And that's what you get with Texas, and that's what the Big 12 learned.
And Heath, any thoughts on our show moving forward?
Hey, with the Stingray Show, if you don't like it, you better learn to love it, because it's the best show going today, baby. Woo!
And with that, I want to welcome you inside the Stingray Show. Heath, we're live, bro.
I know we're live. Steven, we talked about it. We're going to talk about it more after the show. We know who's in the playoff. Well, let me rephrase that. We know who's in contention of the playoff. But how many bowl teams do you think we're going to get? Are we going to set a record? I'll just ask you that. Do you think we're going to set a record this year, yes or no?
I have no idea, but let's go on ahead and focus on the game at hand, and then we'll do that after this show.
Yeah, go on and get your comments in. We're going to be talking about SEC Bowl picture. We're going to be talking about the playoff picture and how many teams are going to get in. We'll do that after the show. But go on and leave it in the comments of what you think, how many teams we're going to get in, who's out. What we got going today, Steven?
Heath, today is Florida at Kentucky, and let's be honest, everybody who has a brain will tell you that that was a catch for the Florida Gators there late in the Georgia game, and the SEC office was not having it, and I'm going to say that they were protecting their investment. The Georgia Bulldogs, as we move down towards the stretch of the playoffs and the SEC championship game, he had his hands underneath that football like this. You had it on multiple occasions, and of course that was a heartbreaking way for Florida to lose that football game, especially since they played with and at times outplayed the Georgia Bulldogs in that rivalry game on Saturday. What is next for them? Now they go on the road to Kentucky, and Kentucky is coming off of a really feel-good win over Auburn. And so now, with this rivalry game having been lopsided by Florida for a while, now Kentucky has recently had Florida's number. And to talk about this game from the Florida Gator perspective, here is Graham Hall from Gators 247. Graham, how are things with you this morning down there in Gainesville? And let's go on ahead and start. Don't you agree with me that that was a catch versus Georgia?
I do think it was a catch. I understand why it wasn't ruled one, because you didn't really have a great angle of it. All the ones that they showed, you can see the grass coming up. The shot is from behind him, and you can't see that left arm fully underneath the football. But I didn't see on any of the angles that I saw the ball hit the ground. I'll give Billy Gonzalez some credit. Company line came out and said he didn't think it was a catch. Maybe he didn't see the replays that we all did. Certainly was a consequential decision there. But, maybe this is coach speak a little bit. There were other chances for Florida to not be in that situation, to have a chance to still win that game. They don't convert on 4th and 4. Pretty poorly thrown pass from DJ Lagway on 4th and 4 there. That just all kind of just seals the game. It was a tough call. Absolutely. That's just the way it is. They ruled it incomplete on the field, so didn't have enough to overturn it. But certainly from the angles I've seen afterwards and what I saw in the moment, I thought you could have made a really good case that was a catch.
Graham, we've talked about it on the show. You've, been on our show, oh gosh, probably around a dozen times now. But the one thing that we've talked about over and over on the show to make conference officiating better in the SEC, and there is a problem. Let's just call it like it is. On the replays, I think the ACC does it better than anybody else. They do the review live. You hear what's going on in the review booth. You hear what the on-the-field officials saying. You hear what the officials saying there at the replay center for the ACC. And so everyone is open and communicating, and it's wonderful to hear that. Yet, for some reason, I have no idea why the SEC wants to hide it, because that tells me everything, because there's nothing to hide. Just show it. And if you don't show it, you are hiding something. But the replays have not been courteous to SEC fan bases over and over and over. Does a game come down to a replay? Rarely. Rarely it does. But sometimes it does. And I'm telling you, we have got to have higher accountability with the officiating in the Southeastern Conference. This is a joke. But staying with the officiating thing, what personal opinion, what would you like to see happen, whether that's live in the, when they send it to Birmingham for a review, do away with conference officials altogether? We've talked about this on the show many times. If we're going to put a kid, on stage, a 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old kid in front of the media for dropping a pass or, a late hit or whatever it might be that costs his team the game, if we're going to put that student athlete in front of the firing squad of the media, we should definitely put these grown adults called officials in front of them. It's like, why did you make that call? And I agreed with most of the calls at Arkansas this past weekend, but some of them I didn't. But I would like to know the answers to this. And is that something how we can solve this problem? Because I think that the SEC needs to be proactive, because another conference is going to figure this out, and the SEC is going to be sitting there like, I don't know what we're going to do. Your thoughts on how we can make officiating better in the Southeastern Conference?
Yeah, I got a couple suggestions. They're all in the under the guise of transparency. They could show on the TV. Maybe you could make this like an SEC Network Plus type thing, make a little bit more money off it, where they show an angle of exactly the replay that the officials are looking at. So you're seeing the screen that they're looking at, how they're looking it back, the angles they have, put those on TV so people know what they have at their disposal to make the determination that they do. I also think that, the mic'd up idea is pretty good, but I think that let's just be kind of completely honest and transparency's sake. If they come out here after the review and come out there and say there's not enough to overturn it, or we couldn't definitively overturn it, I think that transparency people would be in favor for.
Yes.
More so than just saying, oh, it's not a catch or it is a catch, because that still leads to some debate. If you can just tell people, hey, we didn't have enough to overturn it, I think people they'd still debate it, of course, but they'd be a little bit more satisfied with the answer. They'd probably be frustrated if they're Florida fans, or they'll feel grateful if they're Georgia fans in a situation like that. But just come out and say, rather than it is or isn't a catch, we didn't have enough to overturn the call on the field. And maybe people will gripe and say, oh, you should have more cameras out there, whatnot. But that would be an attempt at a solution. But here's the one that I think would be the easiest and best change in my mind. Do you guys follow the NBA much?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So at the end of each game, there's a pool reporter. And there's a reporter who's assigned who gets to interview and ask 3 to 4 questions to an official after the game. The NBA already comes out and does that 2-minute report where they say what calls were missed, what calls were wrong. That's good transparency. And we can, save this conversation for another time, but you guys both know that the NBA needs right now, especially, as much transparency as possible. So you have a reporter who can go up and ask the officials point blank what went into this call, what went into this decision, and getting the official to give an answer that is on the record of saying, hey, what did you see on that J. Michael Sturdivant attempted catch that led you to uphold the call, so that they can come out and make a statement. And then, maybe some favoritism, some brownie points for the media, because they're actually directly asking the officials about consequential decisions made in the game. I think people would want to know what the refs saw, what they're thinking. And those 3 ideas I suggested are the perfect way to do it. I'm really in favor of if the lead official was made available to one reporter and they could answer that question after the game, I think it would limit some of this controversy that you see and these topics of conversation about the calls and whatnot. And maybe if the officials came out after the game and were like, we saw an angle where it did hit the ground, he used the ground to corral it, people may not disagree with it, but at least they're getting an answer from the officials based on what they saw, what they might not have seen the fans on the broadcast. So those would be my suggestions, but I kind of disagree. I don't think there's some grand conspiracy
I don't either.
from the SEC official office. And I've seen that out there. I'm not talking about you guys. I've seen that out there. People talking about protecting the product and whatnot. I don't necessarily buy into that so much. I just see this is a human element. Players make mistakes. Referees and officials are going to make mistakes. It's like when you see a fumble get stripped out and then they rule it dead before the recovery happens, and then the opposing defender picks it up and runs to the end zone. The refs shouldn't have blown the whistle as early as they did. That's a human mistake. It's not an intention to help the other team. This is a human element. And I know that everyone out there would rather have this game, or at least I hope they would, the human element involved in this game rather than us going to AI or robot officials where they're getting every single call right. Because then I'll tell you what, there will be 20, 30 penalties a game. They'll call holding every single other play. If you had robots out there who are administering these rules, these games would take 7-8 hours. So I'm in favor of humans making mistakes. It's part of why we love it, because the officials are part of the game as much as people may be frustrated by the decisions they make.
Graham, I want to ask you before we get going about this week's game. What is the craziest rumor you have heard on the Florida coaching search? What's the worst rumor you've heard, and which name is getting the most traction right now?
I mean, it's Lane Kiffin that every Florida fan is talking about. We have people on our message board who would be extremely upset if it's not Lane Kiffin. They wouldn't want to be patient any longer. They wouldn't want to wait to see if a coordinator is going to be good or not. They want a guy like Lane Kiffin, or, one of the unattainables like Dan Lanning, or even a Marcus Freeman. The craziest rumor that I've heard, Man, that's tough. That's tough. And we talked about it last time. Probably Urban Meyer. People
Oh, wow.
speculating about Urban Meyer. He's not returning to coaching. If you think that, I want whatever you're having to indulge in, whether it's
Well, my doctor
your
prescribed that
Dr.
same
Pepper or
medication.
donuts, like you guys were talking about. I want whatever it is that's making people live in that fantasy land. I hear that rumor all the time, and plane tracking season is always an interesting one because Florida hides their plane numbers. And a couple of weeks ago, Florida took one of their private planes up to Starkville, and someone posted on our board, and I hope it was in jest. Oh man, maybe we're going to meet with Dan Mullen back in Starkville, or maybe we're going to meet with Jeff Levy. Scott Strickland's family lives up in Starkville. So
Right.
it's a crazy time right now. I've seen some crazy suggestions and rumors. Yeah. The Urban Meyer fantasy land is probably near the top of it. That guy does not want to coach Florida again. He wants to be in the Ring of Honor at Florida for what he already did. And I think he'll get in there in due time.
Graham, let's go ahead and talk about this matchup with Kentucky. And let's begin with the psyche of this Florida program after all of the turmoil of the Billy Napier firing, and then having a really close loss to the Georgia Bulldogs when Florida actually outplayed them for the majority of that football game. Where is the psyche of this football team now having to go on the road to a rival that you have dominated over the past decade or century, but here recently, Kentucky has had your number?
Yeah, when I was growing up, Florida versus Kentucky was kind of just chalked up to a victory for the Gators. Yeah. I mean, I think it was 3+ decades that Florida won a game in that series. And I had said back in 2014, 2015, given the parity and the job that Mark Stoops was doing, and it was only a matter of time before Kentucky got things figured out, where the big money boosters in Lexington wanted this program to be good. And they have been relatively good in recent years. Now, they're not very good right now, but they're certainly capable. They're a good defense, as Auburn found out last week. They certainly have talent. They've benefited from the transfer portal. Mark Stoops is I still think he's the longest tenured head coach in the SEC. So they have continuity. They understand the system. They just haven't had the play offensively that you would look for to compete on a consistent basis in the SEC. But they certainly are talented. Florida can't look past them. If they're looking at that Ole Miss game and staying on the road again next week, they're going to be snake bit. So I do think that this is a team that, to their credit, has not splintered. They haven't, hung their heads. They haven't looked to the future. They're not pointing fingers. They're upset and disappointed, obviously. And it has been a tough year for a lot of guys in the building. That's no surprise or secret. But they're motivated to win. There's a lot of guys here on this team that are playing their final, not just their final seasons with Florida, but their final years of college football. And they're not going to throw in the towel and have regrets where they're looking back and be like, man, I should have given it a little bit more, when they're in their 30s sitting here like us and talking heads with podcasts. They're going to be sitting here, saying, hey, man, I finally had tried a little bit more against Kentucky. If only I'd given it a little bit more, we could have made a bowl game rather than finishing 5-7 potentially, or 4-8 even for Florida. They're motivated and they understand that this is a challenge. They've played a bunch of tough games this year. They've gone on the road to LSU. They've gone on the road to Miami. They've gone to Texas A&M, just played in Jacksonville against Georgia, which is never it's a split crowd, 50-50 right down the middle. So they've played in front of hostile environments already this season. Kentucky's not going to be any different. That team's going to be certainly a little bit motivated and feeling good, have some momentum after beating Auburn. But Florida's not throwing in the towel here. I think it's going to be a game that Florida still wins by double digits. Florida's better offensively than we've seen. They've just played a lot of really, really good defenses. DJ Lagway has made strides. He's being used as a runner a little bit more, as you saw in that Georgia game. He's a willing runner, a guy who isn't afraid of contact. I think that they're going to be very motivated going into this game, a chance, because if they win this one and then they have a chance to play spoiler at Ole Miss next week and take on two rivals in back-to-back weeks in Tennessee and Florida State, they have a chance to still make a bowl game here. And I know that Florida, from everything I've heard, is still motivated to do that despite just another disappointing result this past Saturday.
Graham, out of the 16 teams in the SEC, 15 of them still have a chance to make a bowl this year. How many teams from the SEC do you think are going to make a bowl?
I think probably 11 or
Okay.
12. I think that you'll see 11 or 12 make a bowl. And I think that you'll see either 5 or 6 make the college football playoff. I just think that that's going to be how things shake out, where half the field is going to be the SEC. And people are going to be frustrated by that. I already see Miami fans out here complaining about being number 18 in the college football playoff rankings with 2 losses.
Losing games.
Yeah, and they haven't, their schedule, even though they've played some good opponents, played Notre Dame, played Florida, Louisville and SMU were teams that maybe were not considered to be top 10 teams in the country before the season, but they certainly have talent. They haven't left the state of Florida until this past weekend, though. That's pretty nice. I can't say that. I've been to Texas. I've been all over the place recently. So I can understand the gripes and the frustration from certain fan bases. I think the SEC is going to have 6 teams in the college football playoff if I had to put my money where my mouth is right now. And I think you'll see 12 teams make a bowl game in the SEC this year, maybe 11. It'll be close, but I think the majority of the SEC teams are going to be in the postseason this year.
There you go.
All right. So, Graham, look, man, thank you for taking time to join us this morning. Go and enjoy covering the Florida Gators and the Kentucky Wildcats. And, of course, good luck to the Florida men's basketball team that unfortunately came up just a little bit short Monday night against Arizona. And we will catch up with you next week, okay?
You got it. Let me give one last gripe before I get out of here. I need some more originality out of mascots because a couple weeks ago I covered Mississippi State Bulldogs, then a week later Georgia Bulldogs. On Monday night covered the Arizona Wildcats, and now we're getting the Kentucky Wildcats less than a week later. Give me something different, man. There's got to be more. There's 15 Tigers teams out there.
Yeah.
Give me something different because every time I write, oh, they beat the Tigers, now they're facing the Tigers, I'm like, people are going to be confused. Do it for me. Yeah. Do it for the public. Let me get some originality here. There's got to be, something crazy. Like, give me the Kentucky curb stompers or something. Give me something wild that's going to really strike fear into my heart. I don't know. Last time I saw a Wildcat, so that's my gripe. Appreciate you guys having me. Y'all take care.
Hey, Graham.
You're good, brother.
When it comes to baseball season, if you write for baseball, you could just call them the Bat Cats.
I like that. Now we got to popularize it so people know what we're talking about. You start the movement, I'll help you out.
Okay. Thank you, buddy.
Y'all take care.
All right.
You and Graham need to call Margot and get things copyrighted.
Yeah.
You're going to start renaming everything. Hey, for everybody listening, if you didn't see the beginning of the show, post-show, we're going to talk about how many teams you think are going to make a bowl game from the SEC. Let us know what you think. We'll talk about it in the comments after the show. But how many SEC teams are going to make a bowl game this season?
So now we are trying to make our prediction and go to the Florida and Kentucky matchup. And Heath, let's go on ahead and talk about how you feel like this game is going to go before we get to our next guest.
Well, I know with Florida and Kentucky, the one thing you know about Kentucky is they want to make the game as ugly as possible. Stoops always does that. We always talk about that on the show. Stoops always has done that. The perfect example is look what they did to Auburn this past week. Look what they did to Lane Kiffin last year in Oxford. They want to make it as ugly as possible. They want you to play their game, and then they find a way to beat you at the end. So that's what Kentucky does. We've seen them do this. Just about every Kentucky win is the same. Just about every single one of them. I mean, it's like a Jerry Lawler match. You know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So with that being said, you're going to have to see that aspect of it. Florida cannot get into that rhythm of doing what Kentucky wants to do.
Yes.
They can't let them dictate of what they're doing on offense, because once that happens, Kentucky starts making it ugly. It's going to be a low-scoring affair, and Kentucky's going to try to find a way to pull it out in the closing minutes. That's how they win ball games.
Heath, let's go on ahead and transition to the Kentucky Wildcats, who are coming off of a potential turnaround win there on the plains at Auburn. And that was, like you said, a very, very sloppy and just nasty football game. But Kentucky won it, doing it the way that Mark Stoops likes to do. To break down Kentucky and this season, here is Nick Rousch from Kentucky Sports Radio up there in the Bluegrass State. Nick, how are things with you up there in Bluegrass Country?
And you got a haircut, Nick. Look at you.
Oh yeah. There ain't too many up there. So we just clean as a whistle up top. Which not exactly the way I would describe how Kentucky's played football this year. But, Mark Stoops, he kept telling us that this team's better, that they haven't quit. And, we got to take him for his word. He was right. That's what happened in that Auburn game. They showed that they didn't quit. They had improved. It was slow and steady, but they got it done. And now Hugh Freeze is in the unemployment line.
Nick, how surprised were you that Kentucky actually won that game at Auburn? Because everything was stacked against them, especially with a true freshman quarterback.
The part that surprised me most was just defensively.
Yeah.
This has been a very sort of seesaw-y type year for them where, okay, well, they look good here, but then they don't look good there. They expected the secondary to be a strength of the team, and that just really hasn't been the case. They've had some injuries there. They were down 2 guys who they thought would be starters going into this game, so they were going to rely heavily on Nasir Addison, who has basically been a special teams player for the last 2 years. So that was the part that I know Hugh Freeze hasn't done much offensively or hadn't during his Auburn tenure, but just the receivers versus the Kentucky secondary matchup, I thought that might be the antidote for what was ailing Auburn. But instead, the defense came to play. They sacked a combination of Arnold and Ashton Daniels 7 times, really got after him. The defensive line has been exceptional all year, and they got their edge players really geared up. So that was the part that surprised me most, that, I thought they were going to be able to make it ugly and keep it close, but I was worried they wouldn't score enough to win. Well, you can score enough to win if you hold the other team to only 3 points.
Nick, I was not impressed at first with Cutter Boley. I watched him a couple of games and just thought, man, they're trying to put too much on this kid. He needs another offseason to kind of figure things out and to develop. And then as soon as I gave up hope on the guy, he comes out firing and looking great. And I was so impressed with his quarterback play and how quick he has ascended with his progressions and figuring things out. Very highly impressed. What is the story on this guy? Was it one of those things where the game just had to slow down a little bit and he got it, or did something click for him? What are the coaches saying about him? Because I've never seen someone develop so fast, so quick, and he got kind of thrown into this due to an injury.
Yeah, some of it is I don't want to say what, because you saw the skill there, but really a switch flipped in the summer that put him in a position where he could step in and be successful. And the other part is just changing up the scheme. They initially wanted to be this sort of, we're going to play action, run the ball, take our deep shots kind of team. And they realize there's too great of a margin of error. If we're just asking him to take deep shots, let's get the ball out of his hands quickly. Just let him make quick decisions, quick reads. And if it's not there, take off and go, because he's got a little bit more athleticism than you expect. In that Texas game that went to overtime, you saw a couple times that escapability in the pocket, that ability to ad-lib and find guys downfield. So a lot of it was some of the changes that Bush Hamden made. You got to commend the offensive coordinator. And the other part of it, too, is this guy's just kind of got it between the ears. And Stoops made it a point after the game that, it wasn't always pretty, but when adversity hit, he throws a pick right before half and it sets up an Auburn score. Some people would crumple. And Cutter, man, he's cool as a cucumber. And he went out and completed 11 straight passes, got him down the field. They scored the only touchdown of the game. So there's still plenty of room to improve, but he keeps taking steps forward. And when adversity hits, it doesn't bother him, not one bit.
No, Nick.
What's the biggest holdback on its development right now? Sorry, Stephen.
What's the biggest what to his development?
What's the biggest holdback to his development right now?
I think he just needs reps and reps on the road. I mean, that was only his second road start, and it wasn't pretty for half of it. So, I think he got a little overexcited a couple of times. And the other part is just connecting on some of those deep balls, and I think that comes with reps. Because underneath, he's been right there. He's on the money. He's great at hitting his checkdowns to his running backs. But connecting on more of those deep balls is the key to really seeing this offense go from, okay, they're all right. They're better than what they had been to, actually a good offense.
Now, Nick, you were there in Kentucky. You covered this team on a daily basis. The past few seasons have been really maddening for Kentucky and this fan base. However, looking ahead and with the Auburn win, you've got Florida that is limping in. You've got Tennessee Tech. You've got Vanderbilt. And then the game with Louisville, which is a rivalry game. Talk about how this win versus Auburn could change the trajectory of the program moving forward into next season with the win and the moving forward.
Ifs and buts were candy and nuts,
Yeah,
right.
but you really think about how what the conversation would be if they had actually completed that win against Texas.
Yes.
But the reality is that a lot of people wanted Mark Stoops fired. But that's Kentucky's second win at Auburn since 1966. People were happy for the most part, right? And if you get a chance to beat Florida and beat Louisville, two schools you do not like, it's going to make you happy. Now, that Tennessee Tech team, I should mention, they are undefeated and one of the best teams in the FCS. So Kentucky's going to have to come ready to play for 4 straight weeks.
Mm-hmm.
The possibility of going to the postseason is on the table. They can get to 6-6, and that would be awesome. You tip your cap to Mark Stoops. But honestly, I don't think there's, even if he gets to that, there's certainty that he is here next year if that happens, right? Like he could go 6-6, and that could be good enough for him to get another job elsewhere. Or they could lose to Florida on Saturday, and then it's 2 straight years without a home SEC win. And it's hard to get people to buy season tickets if they keep showing up and watching you lose SEC home games. So I think everything is on the table, right, from good to bad in between. And I kind of feel that way about this game against Florida too, because while I think the spot is right, and Florida, they probably put all their cards on the table in the cocktail party last Saturday, but they're very explosive. And as we saw last year, that can change the game in an instant. And, between Trey Wilson and Vernell Brown, and then Wagway, he's as boom or bust as it gets. This defense has a penchant for giving up explosive plays. And that's what worries me in this game is that you could turn around and hand the ball to Jaden Ball 10 times. It only takes 1 to turn into 6.
Yes.
Right. Nick, looking at this, looking at the schedule, I mean, Kentucky's 1-5 in SEC, but they're coming off that win on the road against Auburn. They're 3-5 overall. And looking at the schedule, you got Florida at home, you got Tennessee Tech at home, you got then you're on the road at Vanderbilt, and then you're on the road at the end of the season with Louisville. The possibility of Stoops getting canned I mean, is it on the table? Because I think this would be a terrible time for Kentucky to look for a head coach with the coaching carousel just being insane right now. And I think there's going to be a massive floodgate of talent, leaving so many SEC programs in the portal with teams making coaching changes where the consistent SEC teams are really heavily going to benefit. And I think if Stoops sticks around, he can take some of those players. What do you think about Kentucky heading down the stretch? Is Stoops going to keep his job at this moment?
It's probably 50-50,
Okay.
right?
Okay, wow.
And a lot of it's I think a lot of it really hinges on this Florida game. We've seen other times. It was Mississippi State in 2016 where it was year 4, and if he didn't go to a bowl game, then his ass was grass. And they won that game with a 56-yard field goal with zeros on the clock. So he's been backed into a corner before and found a way to win a big home game. It's certainly possible. It's certainly doable. But I do feel like it's kind of a 50-50 proposition. The big thing is just the administration doesn't want to pay for this enormous buyout. That's $38 million. They don't want to pay for it. But there are a lot of fans where you mentioned consistency. Well, sometimes consistency isn't good. Sometimes it just gets stale. And so, that happened with John Calipari here not too long ago, right? Things got kind of old and tired, and they were ready to move on. So that's why this game Saturday against Florida is huge. I still don't know if I'm going to predict a Kentucky win or not, but it's ultimately going to be a game that defines the Mark Stoops era.
So, Nick, where do you feel like getting to the matchup this weekend? Where do you feel like that Kentucky can take advantage of the Florida Gators?
I think it's getting pressure on DJ Lagway and forcing him to make mistakes. And really, I think one of their biggest advantages, too, is the elements. This is the first time Florida has played in November in Lexington since 1990. It's going to be around 40 degrees at kickoff. The Florida boys don't like it. So if you can establish the run early with Seth McGowan, play physical, kind of shock to the system, and jump them early, I think they'll be eager to let go of that rope at Kroger Field.
Yes.
Interesting. Looking at this situation with Kentucky and where they're at, the bowl game's still right there, and they can make it. What does Kentucky need to do to finish this thing out and be bowl eligible? Obviously, winning 6 games, we know that.
Right.
Do they have to be a little bit more consistent in the run games? The defense need to step up. All the above. What's the one thing that they're missing that they're just shy of right now that can get them over the hump and get them wins?
Explosive plays. You saw more of that against Tennessee, but that just hasn't been – everybody's explosive against that bad Tennessee defense. So if they can get more explosive, Stoops has been good in these rivalries, all right, against Florida and Louisville. I want to say he's only lost once to Louisville since 2017, and he's only lost to Florida twice since 2017. So, he's good at getting his teams up for these games. It's just finding more explosive plays. That's the way they make things a little bit easier on them because they aren't the best in short yardage situations. Turn big plays into touchdowns and average 24 points a game instead of 13, right? You got to put a few more points on the scoreboard to give yourself a chance to win.
Wow.
But we'll see if it happens or not. I do got to hit the road, fellas. Got some stuff, some balls in the air I'm juggling today. But I appreciate hanging out with y'all today.
Hey, Nick, before we let you go and before you get out of here, give us a score prediction. Who wins in Lexington on Saturday?
I'll say Kentucky 23, Florida 20. Walk-off field goal by the Cats.
Hey, you nailed it the last time we asked for a prediction for you on the show. Hey, how many SEC teams are making a bowl?
9.
Wow,
that sounds good, right? Yeah, that'll work.
Nick, thank you as always.
Appreciate
we'll
y'all.
Let you get out of here. Big Blue Nation, go beat the Gators. All right, so Heath, that is going to wrap up the preview show for Florida and Kentucky, and I didn't think about that, but if Kentucky loses Saturday night, that will be 2 straight years of no SEC wins at home for Mark Stoops. That changes everything.
Yeah, you look at look at Mississippi State right now. They
Yeah.
talked about how their season tickets are at an all-time low. Well, Stephen, they haven't won an SEC home game since Mike Leach against an Auburn team that was led by Cadillac Williams. So, you've had two different coaches. Levy's in his second year. So, I mean, that's been 3 years. It's been 3 years since they've had a home win. So it's just kind of crazy to think about. So, yeah, he makes a very excellent point. If it's about season ticket sales and you're not winning SEC home games, people aren't wasting their hard-earned money to come out and see this.
Yeah.
And we've seen that at Mississippi State here recently.
So, Heath, that is going to put a wrap on the show itself for Florida and Kentucky. When we come back on Friday, yes, I know that this is Wednesday, but we have something going on tomorrow. Actually, I do, that I'm going to, so there will be no show tomorrow, which is Thursday. We will return with Roman Harper. He will join us on the Friday edition of the Stingray Show, and we will return with you guys on the Stingray Show at 8:15 on Friday morning, and this is going to put a wrap on the show. And Heath, stay tuned after these little ads that we have put out, and Heath and I are going to continue with the post show with you guys on social media for just a few minutes.
Yeah, we'll answer your questions, any comments you got. But the one thing that we're going to be talking about in the post show, how many SEC teams are going to make postseason play this year?
We all enjoy the changing of the seasons. Fall is a special time to be thankful for our families and many blessings. It is also a great time, though, to review your insurance coverages. Alpha Insurance and hometown agent Jeff Nee can help you personalize your insurance needs. The more you protect, the more you save. With helpful customer service teams right here to serve you in Alabama and over in Mississippi, you can count on Alpha to provide the insurance plan that provides the protection that you need. For all your auto, home, life, and business insurance needs, call Alpha agent Jeff Nee or drop by his office at 202 McFarland Boulevard East, Suite 101 in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And remember, with Jeff Nee, the more you protect, the more you save. I am representing a clothing company right here in Tuscaloosa that is called J&J Apparel. If you like the Mississippi State shirt that I have on, you can find all of their Mississippi State apparel as well as Auburn, Alabama, and Ole Miss at jnjapparel.com. They are located right here in Tuscaloosa, but they also have other merchandise for other SEC schools as well. So once again, if you do like this polo that I've got on and the Walking Bulldog, go to jnjapparel.com and get all of your SEC merch right there for Ole Miss, Alabama, Auburn, and Mississippi State with J&J Apparel. So welcome into the post show of the Stingray Show, and Heath looking at the bottom half of the SEC standings right now. Arkansas is at the bottom at 2-7. You've got South Carolina at 3-6. You've got Auburn at 4-5. You've got Kentucky 3-5. Mississippi State 5-4. Florida at 3-5, and LSU is at 5-3. All of the other teams have at least 6 wins and are bowl eligible already.
Yeah, Arkansas already out. And let's look at South Carolina real quick, Stephen. They're 3-6. Here is the remaining schedule for the Gamecocks. At Texas A&M. Yeah, that's going to be a hard one. And then they got Coastal Carolina, and then they got Clemson. So, but you know what? Give it up to Shane Beamer. He may not make a bowl game this year. They might have a losing season. And but remember how dominant Clemson was, especially in that state?
Yes.
And he beat them a couple of years ago, and Clemson hasn't been the same since. They really haven't. I mean, Shane Beamer sank Dabo. Shane Beamer did. Isn't that
Yeah.
crazy to think about?
But Heath, let me also say this too, though. Everybody talks about how hiring and firing of coordinators will get you canned. I do not know what Shane Beamer was thinking when he hired Mike Shula as his offensive coordinator. Did he not look at Mike Shula's track record at Alabama? It was abysmal. It was abysmal. I knew that was not going to work out with South Carolina and Mike Shula, and I think that is one of the reasons that South Carolina is sitting here with a record of 3-6. Because I'm going to go and make a bold statement right here. Lenoris Sellers this season under Mike Shula's offense regressed on all of the momentum that he had last year.
You know, I do not know any of the conversations had. I'm on the outside on this. You know, I'm not a reporter anymore. I'm kind of glad to say that, by the way. But I'm guessing here. This is pure speculation and guessing. I have no facts to go with this. But looking back at making that hire, you know, when they were talking to Lenoris, like, hey, don't flirt with the transfer portal. We're going to get you this amount, and we're going to bring in a coordinator that's got NFL experience. A coordinator that's been a head football coach in college, has been successful, went to bowl games. He's been in the NFL. He comes from a great coaching tree, coaching lineage. His dad is one of the greatest coaches of all time. You know, we're going to bring him in and teach you some NFL concepts to get you ready for the draft. And I bet you Lenoris was like, man, this sounds great. And it just didn't work out. It just didn't work out. Of course, that's all speculation. That's just a guess. But it makes sense of why they brought Shula in. But, you know, I say it all the time, and I'll stand by it. It's very rarely whatever a coach does on the field or during a game or his recruiting that gets him fired. It's the coordinators that he hires, offensive and defensive. That's what get head coaches fired.
Yes.
That's exactly what gets head coaches fired more than 95% of the time. So with that, Stephen, yeah, the Shula thing didn't work out. Shula's already got his walk-in papers.
Yes.
He's been let go. But, man, it's just kind of insane. But, hey, looking at it,
Arkansas, no. South Carolina, no. Auburn, no. Kentucky, no. Mississippi State, I'm going to go ahead and say no. Florida, no. I'm going to give LSU the yes.
Okay.
Because I think LSU can beat Arkansas.
Let's start at Auburn. I mean, they're at Vanderbilt this weekend. That's going to give them a 6 loss. They got an off week. They got Mercer, and then they got Alabama. So it looks like they're going to fall 1 win shy.
Yeah.
They're going to have to win the Iron Bowl to get in, and or beat Vanderbilt. So I mean, basically their season's riding this weekend. It really is. Their season is riding this weekend at Vandy. So that's kind of tough. Looking at Kentucky real quick, they're 3-5. If they get 2 more losses, they're done.
Yep.
They got Florida this weekend, Tennessee Tech, which is undefeated, my wife's alma mater. But they got Charlotte, or excuse me, my bad. They got Tennessee Tech. They're at Vanderbilt, then at Louisville. That's a tough task, man. That's a tough task. So I'm kind of with you on that. Kentucky may not make it, but hey, if you play ugly with Kentucky once, they got you. They got you.
I've got 10.
You got Mississippi State.
SEC has 16 teams. I'm going 10 make it in.
Mississippi State's 1 win away. And this weekend they got Georgia. That's a very tall task. They're at Missouri. They've got a chance on that one, Stephen. They're on a third-string quarterback, but it is on the road. But, hey, Mississippi State's won more games on the road in the last 2 years. They've won last 3 years. They've won more games on the road than they have at home. And then they wrap up with the Egg Bowl there. So, possibility, but their season looks like it's going to be coming down to Columbia, Missouri.
Yes.
Then you talked about Florida. Well, just looking at their schedule, Kentucky this weekend, that could be a win. They're at Ole Miss. Now, Florida beat Ole Miss last year, which is crazy. And it was kind of the same situation. This Florida team wasn't doing good. They weren't looking great. And then all of a sudden they get a win against Ole Miss. But they also got Tennessee and they got Florida State. I think Florida can get into a bowl. I really do.
Yes.
I mean, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Florida State. I don't know. I feel like they just need one more. Or excuse me, no, they're 3-5. Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, they're not getting that, Stephen. They're 3-5. They need 3 wins.
No.
Yeah, I don't see 3 wins.
All right, and then LSU. They just need one more, and they've still got Arkansas looming. I think they can get Arkansas.
Yeah, and I think they're going to win multiple games. I wouldn't be shocked. I would not be shocked if LSU wins their last 3 games of the season. Of course, they got Bama this weekend. Isn't it crazy that no one's talking about LSU and Bama?
Yeah.
No one is saying a word about this game. No one cares about it. I mean, that's where they are right now. But Bama this weekend at Tuscaloosa, Arkansas at home, Western Kentucky at home, and then they're at Oklahoma. Stephen, I think they could get 3 wins. I don't think they will, but I think they could. So with that being said, that's where we are. All the rest of the teams have already made bowl games. Right now we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams already in bowls.
Yep. So, Heath, sometimes my internet does drop just out of the blue. I've had that issue a couple of times, but at least it's not like it was when we first started onto the thing. So, Heath, that is going to put a wrap on the Stingray Show for today. Hope you guys have thoroughly enjoyed our interview with Graham Hall and, of course, with Nick Rousch of Kentucky Sports Radio. And, guys, we will see you on the Friday edition of the Stingray Show. Remember, no show for us tomorrow as I'm going to an event, and we will catch you right back here on social media at Early and Bright on Friday morning at 8:15, and have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday and Thursday, everybody.
Stephen, you gotta look like Arn Anderson. You look like the enforcer with your glasses on. I just noticed that.
I appreciate
double A.
Appreciate that, man, and we will catch you Friday.